Good evening. My name is Bianca, and this episode is about mental health and how places like the Louise Inn and the Gamble Nippert YMCA organizations utilize mental health not only to further abuse victims, but also to cover up their human trafficking and other crimes done to usually female targets, children or women, okay? So, like I said, once again, my name is Bianca. Me and my daughter, we were sex trafficked out of the Gamble Nippert YMCA in 2021 to 2022. They stole some inheritance money with some judges and lawyers, and um, and some Cincinnati police help. And so here I am in a situation where I describe events that are happening to me in real life, but it sounds like I'm insane. So I would like to tie that into, a lot of victims, when they call the police, especially in Cincinnati, Ohio, with the epidemic that we have right now of human trafficking, you ask, where is the human trafficking happening? The human trafficking is happening right underneath our noses as civilians in Cincinnati and all across America in all sorts of buildings, residential properties, and all sorts of organizations and schools and club excuse me, pardon me, and clubs and places where people frequently visit, and community settings such as the Anna Louise Inn. And I would like to talk about how people like Beth and Gordon, how they like to use mental health and social workers, people like Zachary and Glenda at the Gamble Nippert YMCA, who like to assault children, and they have affiliations with social workers where they're able to lie to social workers, create false reports on children to have the children removed from the home. Because, as you well know, if you get too many reports, they legally have a right to take your child. But what happens when organizations such as the Gamble Nippert YMCA abuse their positions of authority and their connections within the Hamilton County um, juvenile system, especially when we're talking about children? CPS able to call a paid off bribed CPS worker to just send you notices and then just take your child through a crooked judge. So these are the problems that we're having in Cincinnati, and I would like to tie that into the Gamble Nippert YMCA. I'm not the Gamble Nippert YMCA, but the Anna Louise Inn, and what's going on, and how if I try to come out and say what's going on with me, that I'm going to look mentally ill, and how people like Beth and Gordon and other people that are involved, they thrive off of gaslighting with the mental health term. The mental health term is nothing to take lightly. When we talk about people's mental health and what all that consists of, and to have people abuse that term for their own personal gain to hide their crime is just totally insane within itself. So, what we have here are people at the Anna Louise Inn that are committing S assault. And you said S assault. How are they committing that? They're committing that by being paid by people on the outside to do illegal businesses inside of female tenants' apartments, such as myself. Who's getting paid? Beth and Gordon are getting paid. They're getting paid under the table to allow cartel to have access to put their cameras in my home. Now, does this sound pretty far fetched? Pretty much. Does this sound insane? Totally. It sounds totally insane what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is this, that I'm being exploited right here at the Anna Louise as we speak. Like even with me talking, they can hear and see everything I'm saying, and that's pretty degrading. And it's just all of the above. There's so many crimes being committed and the reasons behind why they're doing it. And the first thing an abuser wants to bring up is the person's mental health, you know, and the reason why they get away with scapegoating victims underneath the clause of mental health is one reason mainly. Can you guess that reason? The main reason why most abusers use mental health as a scapegoat successfully is because in these situations, a lot of us victims don't have evidence. And so when you don't have evidence, so when I say, wow, there's some way that some of these tenants in this building are able to look inside every nook and cranny in my apartment. When I say that somehow Evan made a deal with somebody, and that's what needs to be stopped, because this guy, this predator at the Gamble Nipper YMCA, he runs a black market business as a lifeguard, posing as a lifeguard and some scientist, but he's really selling women and children. And what he's doing is he's approaching people on the property everywhere I live at. And I guess people are taking the bait, like, hey, you want to see a video of her? Hey, do you want to make money? So what I'm getting at is they paid Evan. So whoever, if you ask me who's doing it, I told you who's doing it, but I don't know exactly who they're sending to do it from the Gamble Nipper YMCA. So I know Zachary runs a business. I know Glenda Harris, Tyler Cook, they're all involved in the situation, but I don't know who they're sending to recruit people where I live at like this. I mean, this sounds far-fetched, but this is exactly what's going on. And when you try to speak out about stuff like this, you're going to sound insane. You're going to sound crazy. And this is exactly why abusers use mental health as number one, the problem. When victims start to talk out, such as myself, the number one thing that comes up is, oh, they must be mentally unhealthy. And the reason, like I said, the reason why they do that is because there's no evidence. Because if you ask me to point to the hidden cameras, I can't point to them. Yet I know they're in here somewhere. And how do I know they're in here somewhere? Because people are moving like they know exactly what I'm doing in my apartment. And there's no way anyone could know what I'm doing in my apartment unless they can see in it. Right. And it's just a whole bunch of other stuff too that's going on around here. And like I said, them coming in and out of my apartment when I'm not here. And the poisoning as well. So they're getting paid to do all these things. And like I said, it's either I'm extremely crazy or what's going on this property at the Anna Louise is extremely crazy. The abuse, the hidden covert abuse is extremely crazy. What they have in secret operation to get paid to do is extremely crazy. A lot of these female tenants, they're getting paid drugs. They're getting paid by drugs and money and all sorts of things by whoever's paying these people to run this operation on me in my apartment. This inner abuse, the noise pollution, because the noise pollution is still happening. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just typical noise. You know what I'm saying? And so all these things, but see, it's not just happening to me. It's happening to whoever they have in their little black market web. Because that's why they're paying these neighbors to monitor me, is to try to keep some type of tabs on me, and also to record private images so they can sell it black market web. And that's what human trafficking is partially about. There's all sorts of ways that women can be human trafficked. It's not just about physical assault. It's also about being made to perform sexual acts against your will and having to be made to undress on cameras against your will is definitely sexual assault. And it's definitely going on currently as we speak at the Anna Louise Inn. Where is it going on at? In my apartment. And like I said, the first thing that abusers love to bring up is the victim is crazy. And like I said, it's either the victim is crazy or the situation itself is extremely crazy. And see, people that do things like this, they never think that the victim will have the courage to speak out about it. But I'm one of those people. I'm going to speak out about what's happening to me. I'm not going to hold it in. I'm not going to keep it bottled up. I'm going to handle it in a positive way. And I feel like the best positive way to handle the situation is to speak out about it. And not only just to speak out about it, but to do something positive once again and help other people, help other women. Because I know I'm not alone. And if you may be listening, to know that you're not alone and that if something I've said tonight or if a few things I've said tonight happens to resonate with you, then you're not alone. And if my message did nothing else, it will let you know that you're not alone out there and what you're going through and you're not crazy. And it's just something really bad that's going on in this country right now with some very powerful people. Because, of course, something like this couldn't be ran by people who don't have any money. You know what I'm saying? So the people at the top that are running this really need to be held accountable. But anywho, it's been a pleasure talking to you all. I will make other videos. And once again, this podcast was about mental health and about how abusers scapegoat victims under the guise of them needing help versus the stories they're saying are accurate just without evidence. Like I said once before, thank you for listening. If you want to subscribe, if you want to check out my YouTube, or if you know someone that may need help and this may be beneficial, a beneficial message, pass them the message. Thanks for listening. Take care, peace, and God bless.